we here? There are thousands of other things you could be doing right now, yet you choose to be here. Why? Because we want to hear new ideas, fresh perspectives. We want to gain insights we didn't have yesterday. We want to learn, we want to grow. I'm a psychologist. I work with organizations every day to create a culture where people and business can grow, where learning happens not by chance, but by design. Because people want to grow, that's a fundamental need. That's what makes us choose paths in life that make things harder, not easier. Think about it. Someone starts a master's degree while working full-time, although they know now nights and weekends will be filled with assignments and textbooks. Or a retired person decides to learn a new language, although it's challenging. Or a home cook decides to master pastry, although it requires discipline and a dozen of failed attempts. People willingly step into challenge, frustration, and struggle. Because we want to progress. We chase that little spark that appears when we move forward, when we learn something new, when we are a little better than yesterday. So, that spark is signature of growth. And this is not just my observation. Our brains are naturally wired to grow, adapt, and transform. With every skill you actively practice, with everything you actively learn, the circuits involved fire repeatedly and strengthen. And over time, they rewire your brain. Think of something you have learned recently. A word in a foreign language, a new song, or a new yoga pose. With your each repetition, the neural pathways strengthen. This is neuroplasticity in action. This is our brain's way of saying everyone can improve. So the real question is not whether we can grow, but how we actually do it. And there is a three-step formula. Our beliefs determine our actions, and our actions drive our growth. Let's start with the first part of this formula. I want you to take a moment and think about yourself. How do you feel in this statement for yourself? I am not good at. Notice your answers as they come. Do they come quickly? And how certain did they feel to you? How you feel in this statement reflects your inner talk. And the certainty in your inner talk creates invisible boundaries for your own growth. There is a famous quote saying, whether you believe you can or you can't, you are right. That's exactly what's happening here. Our beliefs quietly shape what we attempt, what we avoid, and how we show up. So if you like to work on your growth, the first step is noticing your beliefs that are holding you back. And here's a golden twist. When you say, I am not good at this yet, you create a whole new space for growth. This subtle language shift taps you into growth mindset. It reminds you that your skills and abilities are not fixed. And recent research also shows that a subtle language shift can change how we think, how we act, and how we respond to challenge. Because this subtle language shift, even with wording changes, can change our mental model of something. And it can influence our motivation and persistence. That's why every yet is a tiny act of expanding boundaries. So, beliefs set the stage, but growth requires action. And a natural question comes up at this point. Okay, I'm ready to take action, but to what direction? What should I change? What should I continue? We all tend to have some idea about our direction, about our strengths and weaknesses. But no matter how self-aware we are, we all have our own blind spots. That's where intentional feedback seeking comes in. When you actively seek for feedback, you get a clearer picture of yourself. Research shows that people who seek for feedback does well in their performance and in their growth. Because people who often seek for feedback understands how other people perceive them, and that clarity guides their decisions, reduces blind spots, and in time results in better performance and growth. But when it comes to asking for feedback, there are two challenges that we face. First, we all tend to think that we are open to it, right? But it's not easy when the time comes, because there are two forces fighting with each other inside of us. On the one hand, we want to grow, we want to learn about weaknesses and improve. But on the other hand, we want to be validated. We want to be seen as competent as we are. And these two forces fight with each other. And being aware of them helps us keep them in balance so that we can actively go and seek for feedback. Second challenge we face is to hear people's honest opinions about us. Feedback is often sugar-coated or vague, right? And they bring more confusion rather than clarity. It turns out that how you ask for feedback makes a huge difference. The worst way of asking for feedback is to saying, "I'd love to hear your feedback." It sounds polite, but it's too broad, too vague. And it feels like an open invitation for someone to criticize you, and this pushes people away. Rather, you can say questions that are forward-looking, specific, and concrete, like saying, "What can I do to improve my writing? How can I collaborate with you better in our next project?" When you ask this way, these feel like not invitations for criticism, but requests for advice, and people are willing to share and provide you actionable insights. And when they do so, listen carefully. Try to understand what they are saying. What is the thing that you need to get behind the message? Ask clarifying questions. Look for patterns. If several people mention same things, that's something to pay attention to. When you find the meaning behind the feedback, it's time to act. But action is change, and change brings resistance. That resistance creates whole emotions, especially fear, because you are stepping into the unknown. And the tension you feel is because something potentially will stretch you. And that tension is not signal to stop. It's signal of growth. Don't get overwhelmed with everything you need to change all at once. Focus on one simple question. What can I do differently today? That tiny decision, that small step, is an act of growth. And here is the final thing. Growth is not a one-time event. It's a cycle. When you make a change, go back and check. How did it go? Notice the difference. Appreciate your progress and start all over again. So, don't let your beliefs hold you back. Ask for feedback intentionally and take action on the insights you gain. I always remind myself one thing. Growth doesn't just happen to you. It happens because of you. Make it intentional, make it continuous, and start today. Thank you.